Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we toast our 21st episode by taking 21 shots, jumping in a Dodge Charger with the Duke boys, and watching them outrun the law while surfing Autotrader.com. Yee-haw!
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, the official podcast of Monsters Unlimited, a creative agency with a business brain. I'm Shad Conley, Communications Director at Monsters Unlimited, and one of your guides here into the infinite marketing abyss.
And I'm Patrick Jebber, Creative Director at Monsters Unlimited, and that's it.
You weren't expecting the abyss, were you? It took you by
No.
surprise.
And I love that.
Well, I think this is a good time, Patrick, to mention this podcast episode isn't just a regular episode. It's a celebration.
Oh, I love celebrations.
And this is a good one. It's actually our 21st episode. That's right. Speaking Human has turned 21. What are we going to do to honor this momentous event, Patrick?
Well, we are actually going to be taking shots.
Lots of them. 21 shots to be exact. Or one shot for every minute of the podcast. Now, we're not going to, make a big deal out of it or point it out to you. Just, if things get a little weird, just know that's what's going on in the background. You might hear a clank here or there, but everything's all right. We're just, having a good time, celebrating.
That's right. Slurring our words.
That's right. So if this is your first time checking out the podcast, our goal on Speaking Human is to simplify complex marketing topics. We toss aside all the buzzwords and mumbo-jumbo to focus on what you really want to know, how marketing can bring brands and people together. On today's episode, we're taking a wild ride with two reckless outlaws who've gone from cruising the back roads of Hazard County to cruising the web's ultimate automotive marketplace. So let's get into it.
Just a good old boy.
We still got it, cousin. We still got it.
I'm not so sure about our old friend here, though.
Police cars just a lot faster than they used to be.
That is why I am on Autotrader.
What you just heard was an audio clip from the new marketing mini-movie, that's right, not a commercial. Autotrader helps the Dukes find a new car. And for, our podcast listeners who haven't necessarily seen the mini-movie yet, why don't you give them a brief description there, Patrick?
Well, this little doozy debuted in June, and it has over 90,000 views on YouTube now. And it features Tom Wopat. That's right, Tom Wopat.
The Wopat, as I call him.
Yeah, and John Schneider, the original Bo and Luke Duke from the series, The Dukes of Hazzard, and also the General Lee, that iconic orange Dodge Charger that frequently ran through fences, barns, and jumped an occasional ravine or two so the Duke boys could escape the law. Yeah, that one. That's also happening in the commercial, too. So the Duke boys are in the car, and they're realizing that they might need a new vehicle. The commercial follows their journey with Autotrader.
And just to give you a little, add in a little background on the campaign where this commercial emerged from. Autotrader, for those of you who don't know, is an online marketplace for buying and selling cars, basically the eBay of cars. They've been around since 1997. And this commercial is part of their new Find Your Car Your Way campaign. They say their biggest marketing campaign ever. And the basic idea behind it is promoting Autotrader's new, more mobile web experience. You can start on one device, move into another, and it's supposed to be seamless, or get text alerts when prices change. Different features like that, especially focused on mobile. So that's the main purpose of this campaign. So let's talk a little bit about this commercial with the Duke boys, Patrick. And to start off, what's your personal experience or connection with the Dukes of Hazzard? Do you even have one?
It's funny you ask, Shad.
It is funny.
It is funny. Well, I grew up in the 80s and was a huge fan of the show. The Duke Boys, Boss Hogg, Roscoe Pico Train, Cooter, Daisy, and like I said, the General Lee. everyone's favorite orange Dodge Charger. That show definitely has a special place in my boyish heart.
What's funny is for me, I grew up, but at the time the show was on, I was pretty young still, and I remember the show, but I remember it more for basically like merchandise, like T-shirts and toys and stuff like that related to the Dukes of Hazzard more than actually watching the show, which I probably caught a little bit. It ran from 1980 to 1985, so I was still pretty young at that point. I probably saw a little of it, but yeah, it's really the merchandise that sticks in my mind.
Are you saying that I'm older than you? Is that what you're saying? That I'm an old man?
Your comprehension of the complex series that was the Dukes of Hazzard was probably a little better at your advanced age.
Yeah, maybe.
What I was I was surprised when I was looking up some stuff for this show. I knew it was always a popular show, but 1980 it was like the number 2 show on TV, which seems crazy. I thought it was more of kind of like a niche kind of show. Anyway, let's talk about this commercial or mini movie from Autotrader. It's actually both. The online version is a mini movie, but they've actually aired shorter versions of it. I've seen a couple different ones on TV, just as commercials. But what do you like about this commercial, Patrick? What does it do well?
Well, first, I think the most notable and probably the most obvious is that they've identified that their target audience, dare I say my age group. I like that for sure. Normally, the nostalgia that you see most often doesn't have any relation to the product itself, and I think that's one of the biggest problems. So the fact that Autotrader has picked a show that can be related to their service and then tells that story through those, dare I say, iconic characters is, I think, fantastic, in this case.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think the strongest part about this, well, one, they do a good job of actually recreating what the show was, it always featured one of these extended chase sequences, kind of ridiculous, so they did a good job kind of recreating that. But I think that the best part about it was sort of the thematic connection. They didn't just pick some sort of pop culture icon that would represent the 80s, like a lot of brands tend to do in their marketing when they're going for a certain age group. They'll just pick an icon and throw them in there. This one actually had a good thematic connection. It's a car show and it's a car website, so there's a clear connection there that actually makes sense and reinforces the message a little bit.
Yeah,
Let me get a quick shot in here. Hold on. Salute. It stings all the way down.
That burns, doesn't it? Yeah, I was going to say the method in which they tell the story is really solid. They have the longer 2-minute full-length mini movie, which seems, and that one seems a hair too long for me, just, being completely honest. It mixes in all the different elements of their new mobile app, though, and I think that's really good. And then they broke up that mini movie into those several smaller 30-second commercials that you were talking about earlier. And I think that's smart because it really gets more mileage, pun intended, out of the expensive video shoot that they went through. Because I was looking at they have a behind the scenes, and they had 6 days of shooting. They had 80 plus crew members. That was a pretty intensive commercial shoot. So
I will say, let me just throw in real quick, this is like the 3rd episode in a row you've had an amazing, pun to go with our topic. Mileage. Incredible. I agree, though. They do a good job of actually profiling the product. It's not just the Dukes. They're actually showing what's new about the website and mobile experience. They have a real message in there that they get across. And yet, there's one little thing about this commercial that really kind of bothers me. There's one hang-up that's not necessarily bad from a marketing standpoint, but story-wise, it just didn't sit well with me.
what was it? Tell me.
They trade in the General Lee. They go to the store and they get rid of their iconic car and get a replacement car.
Which is not as cool as the General Lee, I got to tell you.
No, not at all. And how can you know what I mean? What are the Duke boys without the General Lee?
Yeah.
So your commercial ends with them getting rid of their iconic car, and you're just kind of like, no, they wouldn't do that. What would have been better to me is maybe they get like a whole fleet of General Lees, or they find a new exact same version of the car, but them trading it in for like, I don't know, what they get
I think it's a Dodge Viper, because they kept it in the family. They kept it.
Yeah, they're sticking with the Dodge, but it just didn't sit well with me. It's not believable.
again, going back to the target audience and people who appreciate that show, I mean, that General Lee, it's sacred, man. You're right. I think it does have a negative feel to it when they trade in the General Lee. They should have traded in for the exact same car. That would have been amazing, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's different ways they could have kind of done it. I thought of a few different ways they could have done it that would have been more interesting, but kept them in the same car. But you just don't want to see the Dukes of Hazzard not driving the General Lee, right?
I mean, any other car is subpar to the General Lee.
While we're on this, I'll bring this up real quick because you probably saw the piece online they wrote about it, that there is one thing missing from the General Lee that they never show in the commercial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to talk about it?
The Confederate flag on top.
Yeah. A smart move, I feel like, on their part, because, that obviously is a touchy subject.
Yeah, very smart move. I think it makes sense. This day and age, things are a little different than they were 30 years ago. But here's another opportunity. You could have done maybe they get the non-Confederate flag vehicle.
Yeah, or one with like the Autotrader logo on top. Ah.
Ooh, there you go. Little extra branding on top.
Absolutely, because the Duke boys, if they buy into your branding, everyone else should too. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. As far as the approach to this commercial, they obviously take kind of piece of nostalgia that, you recognize, I recognize, that our generation and people a little older, a little younger will recognize. What do you think about using that stuff in marketing? Do you think it's effective?
Yeah, I mean, I think nostalgia is a perfectly fine way to speak to your customers. And, if you could identify a large enough group in your audience and mix in a little nostalgia for them because that, something is going to speak to them, I think it's a great tool to create interest. And yes, nostalgia is a tool. Like any tool, you have to use it wisely and when it makes sense. It's like a hammer. You wouldn't use a hammer to cut through a piece of wood, right? And you certainly wouldn't use nostalgia if it didn't make sense to your product, service, or audience. Pow.
Shabam. And, I agree with you, but that's the problem I see with most of these. The one I think of is they had that Super Bowl commercial for Radio Shack that had all the 80s icons. And then, the message of it was, hey, Radio Shack, the 80s called. They want their store back. And it was the most sort of backward form of marketing I've ever seen. They were obviously trying to play on their image, but at the same time, there was no message there. You know what I mean? They were degrading themselves in the process.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a lot of what I see with these marketings where these pop culture icons or, these figures of the past, they're trying to create nostalgia, but they don't have a strong connection. We talked about the Cars and Autotrader. The Dukes of Hazzard and Autotrader makes sense. There's a connection there, but you have to have that. And so many brands don't. I know on a past episode we also talked about the Old Navy when they had the Griswolds, one of their commercials. They did nothing with them. They just had them there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no thematic tie-in. There was no message there, and that's, I think, what you need to stay away from.
Yeah.
If I can go dark here for a minute, like real dark. There's another risk with the nostalgia marketing is you're reminding people of the past. You're also reminding them that they're old and they're going to die. I mean, it's a potential backfire of it. You're hoping they'll feel warm and fuzzy about it, but they'll be like, oh, I remember watching that when I was young, and now I'm not. Marching towards death.
Yeah, that's good. It's very dark.
It may not be common, but it's a possible flip side. It's there. You never know what this stuff's going to stir up.
30 million people kill themselves after realizing that they're getting older.
Yeah, the Dukes of Hazzard cause, mass suicides across the nation.
I just wanted you to use our mobile app. Yeah, it could backfire. I don't know if it will, but it could.
So, keep it along that same thing. What do you think other brands or companies, small businesses, whatever, can learn from, about nostalgia marketing and like this Dukes of Hazzard one specifically?
Well, like I said, if it makes sense, you could use it. If you can use it effectively, that's a good thing. And we talk about this a lot in our podcast, to the point that it probably feels like we're beating a dead horse, but Wilbur.
Yeah, that's a better horse.
But knowing your audience is really key in any marketing effort. And Autotrader feels like this speaks to their audience. But one thing we also don't always mention is having fun with your marketing is really important. I think you can tell when a brand isn't having any fun. And ones that are, I think it's a good way to attract new customers and maybe even reinvigorate your current customers. And this series shows, Autotrader having fun with their brand really more than ever, because I don't even remember a marketing effort from Autotrader in the past. Do you?
No, not at all. Marketing wise, there was not even a blip on the radar.
The only thing I knew about Autotrader was those little magazines, like when you walk in the grocery store. You know what I'm talking about? Or like a store like where you got the doors in between and they have those racks of different things that are free.
Yeah, it's like find apartments or buy cars or something like that.
Yeah. So this is good because it does bring up that they have a mobile, entity out there.
Yeah. I thought they did it well. I thought theirs worked on a number of levels. And you're right, it is a lot of fun. I mean, even like reading stuff about it and looking, researching the campaign a little bit, it was fun and it was interesting and it was enjoyable to me. That being said, for other brands like trying to do this kind of stuff, I just say tread carefully. I think in a lot of cases, it can be gimmicky, without that message underneath. Something that serves both your product and speaks to your audience, not just shows you, hey, here's Hulk Hogan.
Well, and like you said, you have to tread lightly, like the tread of a tire on a Dodge Charger.
Oh, you've done it again, Jim.
I'm full of them today. I'm full of them. It's all these shots I've been doing.
The shots definitely helped. It's a loose show. The Dukes would be proud. Drinking your shine, boys.
Moonshine from Uncle Jesse. Yee-haw!
Well, I think that about wraps it up. What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, I think that's it. Even though that's it for today's show, you can listen to our current and past episodes of the podcast at speakinghuman.com. Speakinghuman.com. You can also subscribe to the Speaking Human podcast in the iTunes store. That's right. They're all out there for you.
Yeah, give them a listen. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us with your feedback, comments, questions, suggested topics for the show, anything you want to tell us. The email address is feedback@thinkmonsters.com. That's feedback@thinkmonsters.com. Until then, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you next time, humans.
Speaking Human. Na, 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 na.
Thanks for sticking around. What you actually just heard was a re-recording of this podcast episode. Turns out that our idea to take 21 shots during the show was not a great idea. But as a special Easter egg for you listeners who stuck around, here are some excerpts from the original recording. We'll give this a go. I don't know what'll happen here. I drank 37 shots.
What?
What can brands learn from this marketing effort? I don't know how I got it up. What can your brand learn from this marketing effort? It's weird because I don't know where it came from.
They should have just had Cooter fix their car. Cooter.
Growing Pains had Boner. Dukes of Hazzard had Cooter. It was like it's okay to use those words as long as you don't acknowledge there's any other connotation to them. This is my buddy Sack.
Oh, hey, I'd like to introduce your buddy Sack to my friend. I think they would get along real nice, like.
That's where the network draws a line. Now, we've done a lot of things, but the one thing we will not do is have a character named... Shots. Do you think Schneider and Wopat were sitting at home and they're like, that phone hasn't rang in decades?
We should call him back. Hold on. I gotta get my pulse dialing.
That's all right. We'll go on the internet. I don't know if they showed it in the background video, but on the set they were like, make it look like these guys are still alive.
Oh, I should have watched it to begin with.
We should start watching the things we're talking about.
Do you remember the Dukes of Hazzards, Patrick? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
What show
You
is
should-
that?
You should bleep Wopat.
John. There. Bo and Luke.
Trader.com.
Yeah. It was the heyday of the internet. Now it's nothing.
The internet barely getting used. Nobody talks about the internet anymore. There's probably like a guy, and you're like, "Hey, who are you?" I am Autotrader. I deal in the trade of autos.
I've come from a far-off place to shoot behind-the-scenes footage of the Duke Boys. One might ask, why would I come so far? And I say to you, don't ask these questions unless you want the answer. You want the answer? Oh, you want the answer? Okay.
No.
Hold on, I've only learned this much English.
I've run out of words.
This is so... I'm not prepared for this.
Don't
You-
ask these questions unless you want the answer.
You Americans always want answers.
Autotrader.
.com.
.com. This is how we sing it from where I come from. Where do I come from? Oh, that's a good question. I wish I had an answer for you. I think instead I will just kill you now. Stuff you in the trunk of my Dodge Charger. How does that sound to you? I got dark. Real dark.
Autotrader will be like,
Can you please stop personifying us as a scary foreign man?
Are you there? Those guys are crazy.
Na 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 na. Speaking human.